Just take a step, rise above, find your breath in the darkness. We will find a shining light to free our mind, to free our mind. Self will bloom like petals bloom, shedding tears will heal the wounds and the chaos. Let's find peace, embrace the pain, let it release.
Relax your mind. It's divine time. Speak your truth. Your voice can empower and save lives. It's your boy, Danli Divine. I am here with another beautiful soul. Her name is Nancy Nance. Did I say the last name correctly?
Nancy Nance. That's me.
All right. And with it, she reached out to me and she really wants to put her story out there. Now, with everybody, I always say, I'm like, we all have a voice, and with the voice, we can empower others and we possibly can save a life. The biggest thing is we all have been through things in our life, and it's our due diligence to speak up. Because in all honesty, we're in a time now in our lives where a lot of the things that others should know comes from other individuals, and we're not spreading that knowledge amongst one another. The biggest thing that we can do is share our experiences to help grow other people. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and just turn it over to Nancy and let her kick it off.
That was a lot, what you just said. I mean, where to begin after that? As we look around the world, we quite often look through the eyes of judgment at another and at ourselves. So often we judge ourselves for the mistakes that we made living the mortal existence that we live. As beings, it's inevitable to make mistakes. Some say that to sin is to miss the mark, which is to make a mistake. And when we feel ashamed for the life that we've lived or the decisions that we've made, we sometimes doubt our ability to be able to tell our truth without feeling as though we are speaking poorly of another. Yet, if we do not tell our truth, it's a disservice to ourselves and others. Speaking my truth is something that I began to do with much more ease as I worked through my own rage, as I uncovered the depths of my own betrayal, hatred, and understood that it was my opportunity to create a legacy with my life. So when my daughter died at the age of 10, August 26th, 2011, I had a big decision to make. I decided to stay instead of leaving. Leaving would have been an option, and then I would have left behind 4 beautiful sons who needed their mother. So in choosing Joy, my daughter's name, Emily Joy Chaplin, I chose to find a way to live another way, to find my joy and to find a forever friend, someone who would love me through the difficulties of life without a child. My marriage fell apart 1 year later when my husband left me for another woman. There was a lot of reasons to be angry, and yet the angry damaged my relationship with myself, my relationship with everybody, and my physical body. So when my physical body started to fall apart, I had to figure out a way to rebuild every part of me, my financial self, my spiritual self, my emotional self, and my physical self. So I started with me, and then I helped others along the way, little by little. Listening is important. Mic drop. I don't know. Where would you like to go from here?
With it, so you said August 10, 2011, you had the death of your daughter. How did you cope with the death? What was going through your mind at the time that she passed? And do you mind if I asked how she passed?
So Emily was 10 years old. That's why my company is called Exponential Joy. Joy to the 10th, exponential, the highest vibration. August 26th, I coped with her death by focusing on my son who survived. My one priority was my son, Jarrett, and helping him with his physical well-being. I coped by getting into codependency. I became the mother I needed to be. I focused on him, and I began to tap into the things that I had used before her death. I tapped into Reiki. I had a friend of mine who was a Reiki master, and I allowed her to support me. Now, understand that support was in a different province. I moved back home to Edmonton, Alberta, and allowed her to help me. Emily was in a watercraft accident. So I'm going to dial back to that. So Emily was on a Sea-Doo with her brother, Jarrett, and a boat swerved to miss another Sea-Doo, which my son's fiance was on. When it swerved to miss the Sea-Doo, it hit Emily and Jarrett. Emily died instantly, and Jarrett's shoulder was torn open. There was literally shrapnel from the boat in his shoulder. His patella was smashed. His concussion was so extreme that they could no longer give him any morphine, or he would go into a morphine-induced coma. So taking care of him allowed me to disconnect from my own self. Then once he started to get better, I was left alone with me. And by then my husband was already gone. So it was a do or die situation for me. Create heaven here on earth or live in the hell. That was the truth within me. I was very angry. I was very angry. I was not this person. I was a very different person. Yeah, very different.
When it comes to the anger that you felt, what was that anger focused towards? Like, what was the anger directed at?
Who? Like, who was I angry with? I was angry with the boat
I didn't
driver.
I didn't want to say a who, or
Okay.
like
Yeah.
what was it directed at people? Was it directed at water? Anything? Like I'm not sure what
Oh
happened. Like
gosh.
the anger, what
I
was the anger at?
I was angry at the boat driver. I was angry at the RCMP for the way that they handled the situation. So the RCMP is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police,
Mhm.
and the detachment in Kelowna, British. They tested my son's blood alcohol level. Normal, right? It's a collision. They did not deem it necessary to test the boat drivers.
Wow.
So there
Understand.
was a lot there was a lot there. There was definitely a lot there. And then my husband at the time, we were on different pages. He was focused on many other things. He had strong chemical dependencies at the time, alcohol dependencies, many addictions, and so he wanted to celebrate by being the life of the party, and I didn't want to party. I had overcome my own chemical dependencies over the years, and I did not want to live that lifestyle. I wanted to create a legacy for Emily. So I became a certified yoga teacher. That was a huge part of my ability to connect with a power greater than myself. I was mad at God. I was mad at Jesus. They were on waivers because I felt that they had stolen my daughter from me. So yoga gave me an understanding of a philosophy that was similar to Christianity when I really looked at it. And I was able to work through physical movement and meditation. Oh, meditation helped me so much. As long as we're breathing, we're living.
I
So
agree
crazy.
completely with that.
Yeah.
And since you speak of the yoga thing, I'm going to be doing an episode later on about meditation and the power of breath. I would love to see if you're available with that one. Which, by the way, Mr. Sigma Uno, he's got some practice in that as well.
Oh, great.
I remember you mentioning the codependency. Can you
Mm.
go a little bit more into the codependency? What that was like for
Oh.
you? Because I know have codependency. I have codependency behaviors. I'm not diagnosed or anything like that. And the way that I operate sometimes is I think I'm being loving, but I guess for other individuals, it might not be seen that way, if that makes sense.
Well, codependency for me meant keeping all my ducks in a row. I mean, as long as everybody else was happy, I was happy. And that was a real challenge for me because the complex PTSD that my challenge, the whole incident created for me. I mean, I was already living the life of an abused woman, a battered woman, because when you go through abuse over and over and over, it changes to battery, even if you're not aware of it. And then the lights, the red, the white, the blue lights of a crime scene. Anytime that there would be a accident, whether that was fire, any first responder incident, and I immediately texted my kids, hey, how's it going? If they didn't respond quickly, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, oh my God, phone call, hey, just checking in. It was overwhelming. The ability to stay in your own lane is important. When you start driving someone else's vehicle of life, so I delved back into all the books that I had read, Codependency No More, because I was back there. It was like an alcoholic with a drink. It's powerful. It's powerful. Yeah.
That is, oof, you hit a little strings on there for me because I'm like, I remember a time where I used to always sit there. Like, if everybody else is happy, it makes me happy. And times where it's like, for example, like with my partner back in the day, if something was bothering her and I'm like, babe, what's wrong? She's like, nothing, but I can feel that something is wrong. I'm over here overthinking and putting myself down, thinking that I'm the reason why she's not happy or why she's not feeling good. So I can relate a little bit with that. When it comes down to the
Yeah.
abuse and the batter, if you're not comfortable, that's perfectly fine. But would you like to elaborate a little bit more onto that? I'm just trying to put things down to
The
come through with the whole timeline.
yeah, the the abuse was so multi-layered and multi-leveled that I didn't recognize it in the beginning. It began with words, some of the most horrendous words that we call dogs. Rhymes with witch. The whole the see you next Tuesday.
Wow.
I
See,
like that. I've never heard that. See you next Tuesday.
yeah, wow.
It was shocking. It was shocking. Like you wouldn't understand it unless you heard it, and it wasn't spoken when others were around. So there was
Hmm.
no way for me to be able to prove it. It was said in front of my children. He would call me the warlord. Oh, psycho bitch from hell was one of his favorites. I can only laugh about it now because now I realize that, I mean, it just wasn't true. And yet it did impact me. I went from being a confident, successful staffing officer in a large corporation to frightened, afraid, small. The physical abuse, I remember when he grabbed me by my hair, and it was longer than this, and pulled me back into a room. And my children weren't there. They were going to be home any minute. So I simply allowed my head to, like, I softened so it wouldn't hurt as much. And then I went and washed my face and splashed some water on. I told him it would never happen again, and I cut my hair off the next day. So I did what I could to take back my power and control. The physical violence was something that nobody saw. I wore scarves around my neck to cover the bruises from attempted strangulation. It was so all encompassing, and I felt completely alone because I isolated so terribly much, so much. He told me it was my fault, and I believed him. Then there was the financial abuse. When you get, well, I remember getting home after going to my first yoga class before I became an instructor, and he asked me why I was wasting my money on yoga. And it took me a few minutes because I'm like, I used my credit card. Oh, the office manager where I worked with him, we owned a company together, had called him and told him. And I was told to never do that again, or
See,
else. And it's the or else. It's the or else in an abusive relationship that is so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can agree with that completely. That or else hits different. It's like how dare you give me an like the heck.
Hmm.
But I wanna ask this. Well, first let me state something and then follow it up with the question. It was brought to my attention with things that I have been through in my life and a constant repeating of certain things. It was like, okay, you have to look at things that are happening and think, what is it about you that brings these types of individuals into your life? With me, it ended up taking me back to my childhood and the way that I was brought up and things that happened in my childhood. My question to you is, what was your childhood like?
Oh, my mom, her kindness, love, and support for me was outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
And she raised me after the age of 7 independently because my mom and dad were divorced. And she was a great mom. She did everything that she could. I was brought up in a very strong Christian um, life. If you were too sick to go to church, you were too sick to go out with your friends. So I became a Sunday school teacher. I did all the right things. When my mom, at the age of 37, suffered from an AV malformation, so an amalgamation of blood clots in the brain the size of a peach, she was
Mm.
given a 10% chance of living. And like, if she were to live, she would not be able to function um, in a way that would be allowed to care for a daughter. And even though she was paralyzed on one side, she did. She recovered. She cared for me. I reestablished my relationship with my father when I was 13 years old. My first husband was kind until we got married. And then he believed that he owned me. And when I became pregnant and then lost 2 babes, I was pregnant with twins, he was not there for either loss. He was working out of town, our marriage. So it was the repetitive cycle of abandonment, abuse. And when I realized that I could either continue that or break the chain, along came Prince Charming, my second ex-husband, the one who I struggled with for 25 years. So I was lured into this false belief that he was a super kind guy because he was sponsoring the baseball team that I was a part of. I thought he was just a nice guy. I didn't know that his money came from various sources. So I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Like my naivety. I was such a good girl. I didn't know. I really didn't know. I'm only laughing now because I'm just like, wow, like the red flags. Boy, I didn't know what red flags were. So how could I know to look for them, right?
So, question for the second ex-husband. You were with him for 25 years?
Yeah, 25 years. I know I sound like Liz Taylor. Husband one, husband two, and now I'm with a great guy. We've been together for 10 years. He's my
Safe.
forever, right? Woohoo!
Going on ex-husband 2. How long was it going through your mind to leave that relationship?
It was safer for me to stay.
But how long in your mind were you thinking like, I want to leave, I want to leave?
Oh gosh. When I was in the hospital after, actually, okay, so I'm going to rewind. When I became pregnant with my first son, he told me that he didn't sign up for that pregnancy. So I left. I was apart from him for a few weeks until he asked me to come and babysit his other child from a previous relationship. And I came, babysat, and then it became more convenient for me to stay there. And then I never left. When I birthed my son, Jarrett, and he left me in the hospital for 48 hours and came back drunk, I wondered if it was a good idea. And how do I do this? It was the how do I do it? So I was always contemplating that this wasn't the best idea. and yet I had no resources other than the church. And the church wasn't able to give me an exit plan. The church offered prayer. They put me on their prayer chain. When they put me on their prayer chain, one person told another person, and I got beat.
Cheese and bread. I know you said that it was safer for you to stay. Was that due to the physical abuse?
It was due to his associations with people. He threatened me. If you mess with the bull, you'll get the horns. He took complete financial control over me and everything. And when we entered a debt load of over $1 million,
Cheese and bread.
yeah, cheese and bread. When my memoir comes out, you'll understand all about the football bet that was placed. One
Oh my
football
goodness.
bet. Well, amalgamation, because when you bet football and you bet first, second, third, fourth quarter, over, under, etc., you debt very quickly. So when I watch football now and I see all of the advertising,
It's kind of triggering.
I wonder if all of the celebrities who promote the betting understand the devastating effects of gambling and addiction.
I'm not even going to get into that one. Let's go ahead and bring it back to love and light real quick. You said that you got into Reiki, correct?
Yeah, I'm a certified Reiki master myself.
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just had a little joke pop in my head. I love Reiki, by the way. I would love to learn it, but I feel like the first time that I saw Reiki, I was just like, dang, is that like the spiritual sign of like throwing up gang signs?
Right, because when we do it, that's exactly what it is, right? And now when I assist people in the end of life ceremonies, so quite often I will attend ceremonies with friends and family, and most people walk into the Catholic Church and they do the cross, which I do. I believe that culturally is important, so that whatever situation we are in, honoring another person's culture is important. So after I, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, I also throw in, just a little bit of something else. And it looks like I'm talking with my hands.
A little bit dazzled.
Yeah. And I got a little bit of Italian in me because my guy's Italian. So it's
Nice.
come quite natural, right? Like tutte fuori, and all that. It's fun. It's
That's
fun.
what's up. Okay.
Yeah.
So with it, every time that I do to speak the truth, I allow the person to speak their truth. And then with all the podcasts that I do, whether it's the panel discussions, which I do it quite often on the panel discussions, I go into where we just have a portion where we just have a conversation. And in this conversation, we end up hitting deeper things just by talking. Because one thing that I've learned is when you're talking with people, you can learn a lot more about them by just talking with them. Beings love to talk about themselves, and then with it is at the same time the best way to learn about somebody is by to communicate with them.
Yes.
So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and flow straight into this. Mr. Walter, please on in signal. With it, I'm going to ask this question and flow from there. What does codependency mean to you?
Are you talking to me?
Oh, no. I'm talking to Miss Nancy. What does codependency mean to you?
Caring more for others than you do for yourself, and in a manipulative way. So codependency becomes manipulation when the expectation is that you will love me more, or you will owe me somehow after all I've done for you. It's a very manipulative behavior when you understand the real meaning behind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I've never really thought of it like that. The way that it's kind of been brought to my attention is the fact that how you said it earlier, just kind of vaguely, where your happiness, my happiness kind of depends on your happiness, or the way that you feel will dictate a little bit of how I feel. And I will do everything that I can to put you in a better spirit to better myself. Almost like You know how like sometimes you have bullies where it's like they feel happy bringing harm to other people, and then I'm like with this, I'm like it's like you get joy of bringing joy to other people. Like with me, I go out and I end up I always have like index cards on me, and I always end up writing positive things on index cards just because I always have like words come into my mind. So I write those down. It just so happens that a lot of times it's tailored towards individuals, and they're like, "Oh my God, I feel like you know me." I'm like, "I have no idea who you are, but okay." And I mean, when I write the index cards down and the sayings on them, I put them into my pocket randomly, pass them out. Now, with that, it makes me happy seeing other people smile, bringing joy to other individuals. Now, I'm not relying on my day, how my day is going to go based off of how I make people feel. But again, I've been through things in my life. I do have a psychologist that I talk to, or a therapist that I talk to, and I had asked her once before, "Do you think I'm codependent?" And she hit me with the reverse, like, "Do you think you're codependent?" I was like, "You mother fofo." That's the point on me asking you, okay, if we're going to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and just be a therapist to myself. How would you say that the codependency was brought up to you? And correction, how do you think you fell into that codependent, Mr. Sigma Uno, help me here. I know you know what I'm
So
trying to ask.
I guess the question would be, was your action of codependency, was it like filling space for something that you felt you lost?
Oh, wow. That's so beautiful. And the question,
Mm.
I don't know when I felt in my life that I was good enough. I honestly, it stemmed from an early childhood with me. My skills connecting with spirit began at a very young age. And I knew things that
Mm.
I couldn't possibly know, but it was as though I could hear conversations. Though I couldn't
Mm.
hear the conversation, it was my angels and guides telling me certain things. Like oh my goodness, I would know when people were coming over, and then I was told that I was eavesdropping.
Mm.
So for me, I never felt, even though I was loved, I never felt fully accepted for who I was. So I wanted to be a good girl. So I did what good girls did, and I gave everybody a piece of the cake, literally. Like I literally gave my birthday cake out to others, and as long as they got a piece, I was a good girl. If I didn't get a piece, if I
Mhm.
cried, I was being selfish.
Right, exactly.
Mm,
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
wow, that's interesting because just as a point of relating, I was as a child before my father passed, there was an equal amount of understanding about what love and give and take was. Uh, when my father passed, I think the balance changed, and you had to literally prove yourselves almost on your knees, hands and knees, to my mother to prove that we were worthy to be in her presence. And
Mm.
I know it sounds a little over the top, but that's the way it was. So the thing that we did wasn't really enough. We were hoping it was, but it never really was. It was always, okay, you did this, now let's move on to the next. Okay, you've done this, so let's move on to the next. And became adjusted to that. So when I actually did encounter the world, it was all that I did was to make sure that someone could see who I am, like waving, hello, this is me. I'll do what's necessary in order for you to see who I am. And then when people didn't see who I am, I would fade away. I would pull back from everybody and go into this place where literally go into this place where no one would see me. And then it was still in my mind, hoping that someone would say, hey, where's Walter? Somebody should check in on him or somebody should talk to him. It took me a lot to get out of that headspace, but the people pleaser piece, I definitely went there, and I gave Some took, and then some took advantage. And when they took advantage, it was like, well, if you don't give me, and even down to my son, and it's really interesting how he played it, but it got to a point to where you would give and give. When you couldn't give, they would get angry. And, oh, you can't give this to me, then I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to have anything to do with you. And it's like, okay, well, and this is the infancy stage of my brain, because I hadn't developed enough understanding to say, well, you know what, then do what you do. It doesn't really matter. But then I was kind of clawing at them for this attention. So I'm like, okay, I'll figure out how to make it happen. And I would do just about anything to make that person happy. And to a point to where at one point I couldn't say no. If someone asked me something, I couldn't even say no. Saying no was like the world ended for them. And it was like, okay, well, if the world's ending for them, maybe a month or so down the road, with my last large event with regards to this whole giving thing, I was at work and there was somebody post a sign, and and it said, your sense of emergency. Oh God, it said something in the vicinity of, hey, just because you have an emergency, it doesn't mean it's my emergency. I know piss poor planning on your part doesn't make it an emergency for me. And I was like, what does that mean? So I asked the person, what does that mean? Well, that means that just because you have an emergency doesn't mean it's mine. I don't have to ride with what's happening with you. And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
really?
We all have our own priorities and our own realities.
Right.
I feel like
it jolted me into that mindset to like, wait a minute, this is your stuff. This ain't mine. I don't have to deal with this. And so that was the beginning of the pullout for me. But I hear what you're saying, and I don't want this to be about to pull too much away from you, but to understand how you feel, just to let you know that I understand how you feel, and to know that it must have taken a long time, especially if it's your kids, especially if it's your spouse, especially if it's your family members, because you already feel a sense of it's like you need to do something for them. You brought them into this world. You're responsible for taking care of them. So it had to be a hard hole to dig out of. And I get it. Same way with my son. I have a son that we made some very clear boundaries. And for once in my life, I stood back and I said, hey, these were the perimeters. This is what we said. This is what you did.
It's big with children.
Right.
With children. I mean,
Right.
did you? I mean, without overreaching. And again, please tell me if I am.
Oh.
I mean, here in Canada, we've got the Bank of Montreal and the Bank of BMO. Right? Like it's my kitty. It's not your kitty. Like you can't dig into it. Right? So I remember when I went to small claims court to file a claim against my son. We did it mutually understanding, because if anything were to happen to him, that debt wasn't written down within the courts.
Right.
And it took a long time for me to say to him, buddy, we got a problem. Bank of Mom needs some, and he's like, what can I do to help? And I said, well, I got to take you to small claims court.
Wow. That's huge.
And he said, okay.
Wow. That's good. So he was at least willing to work on that. That is good.
Yeah. And it's an ask. If we can learn to ask, just say, hey.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize like a lot of things can be solved with communication, effective communication. Let me throw that effective in there. Because I mean, just because you're talking to someone doesn't mean they're listening. I mean, there are a lot of people who will listen to respond rather than to comprehend. So with that, to be able to sit, my kids are young. They're not even in the double digits yet. So I can not imagine at this point of thinking of sitting down with my kids and having a crucial conversation with them about something along those lines. I mean, my kids trying to learn how to count nickels, pennies, dimes, and things like that. So I'm not there yet. Luckily, yes. But I know that my mom had a situation with my older sister, and my mom was telling me about it, and I could feel the hurt in her voice as she was talking about it. And I mean, it made it to the point where even when I was in a bind, I didn't want to ask her for assistance just because of the fact that I know how hurt it was just for her to be able, for her to lend that assistance and have the other person who is your blood and flesh kind of just abandon you and never even show that appreciation type deal, you know, whether the appreciation is just trying to pay you back with anything that they may have, whether it's a, hey, ma, I only got $25, but thank you for what you did, or even just saying thank you or anything along those lines, almost kind of push you on the back burner and kind of forget about it. Like, oh, you're my mom. That's your responsibility. You're supposed to be there when I need you type deal. And I'm trying to teach my kids like that's not how it goes. Like, yeah, we brought you in this world. We can take you out. But at the same time, my goal is to make sure that you are a decent being in a world where majority of the individuals have no decency at all. And that so you being a decent being will let me know that I have a magnificent child alone and I have done very well. Whether you go out and become a millionaire or not, like as long as I know that you have the right values and you know the difference between wants and needs and you're able to be selfless, like I will be happy.
So well, when you look at the love languages, if you know what the love languages are,
the 5 love languages,
the 5 languages, the 5 love languages, that is one of the ways that an abuser can manipulate you into seeing them differently than they are. For example, someone that comes into your life and says, "Oh, honey, let me help you. Let me help you with that. I'll build you a deck. I'll paint all your rooms. I'll also put in a security system, and I'll also put in a security system for you, and I'll watch it from my living room."
You just got
that is the importance of recognizing red flags and having boundaries. Which, speaking of it, going into the boundary section, when it comes down to a lot of things that you dealt with, would you say that if you had really put 10 toes down on your boundaries or had stronger boundaries or knew about boundaries at that time, do you think you would have gone through some of the things that you have?
I would have lived a very different life had I understood boundaries. I remember the first time someone asked me what my boundaries were, and boundaries? I don't understand. Like I truly, legitimately did not understand. I understood what boundaries were when it came to plotting out an excavation plan or plotting out a concrete map, because I ran a construction company.
Okay.
But a personal boundaries?
You mean to tell me I have a bubble? Wait, what?
no clue. Like zip. And then once I realized how much I had allowed my boundaries to be invaded, it was like Space Invaders from the 80s. And oh my God, then I was really bent out of shape. And then I turned into that, oh no, you don't. It kind of went the other direction.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I can hear it in your tone of voice. What do you mean, hi? What? How dare you? I feel you there. I feel like that's something that everybody goes through. If you're not taught what boundaries are as a child growing up, so when you do figure it out, now it's like your boundaries are so firm to where it's like you kind of push back on anything that's happening just because of the fact that you don't want to allow yourself to just be vulnerable like that again. But at the same time, I feel one thing that I've noticed from a lot of people I've talked to and even things that I've dealt with is a lot of us who end up going through abusive situations, we always end up becoming something that gives back to others.
Yes. What awareness is so key. It's in the giving back. Freely, so I give, freely, so I receive. Again, the Bible verses. And it's in doing so in a way that is really genuine and kind without becoming religious in what we do. So, for example, the smoker that quits smoking, that can't stand the secondhand smoke ever. Oh my God. Or the person that stops drinking that cannot tolerate being in a room with all you alcoholics.
Person who stops eating meat and wants to tell
Personal
everybody
issue.
else, like, you're killing yourself by eating that, right?
It's a personal
Yeah.
dysfunction. It's a personal dysfunction, and they're panning it off on everyone else. The other question I had was, do you believe that growing up in the religion that you were in, that at some point do you think any one of them were responsible for teaching you about those things, or were they too busy teaching scripture letter by letter? So
Ooh.
between the lines,
I just made that same exact face.
between the lines scriptures, there's a lot between the lines. They never teach between the lines. They only teach scripture word by word, and you have to follow it word by word. You get lost there. And so when you go into the world, if you're acting on scripture, you're going to get caught up because the world is not acting the same.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you got caught in that?
Oh, snap. I remember 9/11. 9/11, the day that the terrorists attacked.
Right.
And my mom, God bless her. I mean, my mom, her religion was what kept her alive through all the challenges that she went through. And she started talking about those people. And I'm like, well,
no.
which ones? Which ones?
Right.
And so I became very curious about the teachings within other faiths. And I remember when I read Mohammed by Deepak Chopra. If you haven't read it, it's a beautiful biography from Deepak's eyes. And when I understood that was a slave, and then there was a slave in the Bible, the coat of many colors. Oh my goodness. And then I started looking at the yogic philosophies and the Tao, and I read everything. I'm like, I read the Tao of poo. I read the psychology of poo. Right, like I've got the Tao of poo on my back. It's So I became very curious.
Right.
And curiosity is beautiful. I mean, unless you're Tigger and you're going all bouncy, trouncy, flouncy, pouncy, full of fun, and you're in a tree, you know.
I got to get this off my chest real quick. The wonderful thing about Tigger is I'm the only one. Sorry, I had to get that off. You brought it up.
So good. So good. Oh, so good.
Let me go ahead and just flow right into this. The meditation, the seeking into yourself, the power of breath, has that helped you reach the point of where you are now to be able to look back and laugh at some of the things?
Oh, yes. I fell in love with meditation when I took my yoga teacher training. The meditation solidified when I took my spiritual response therapy training in Sedona, Arizona. So spiritual response therapy is use of to access the Akashic records. I loved it so much that I took the meditations that I learned and created One Spirit in Joy. So one ONE, all capitals, based on a Philippians Bible verse, and created a meditation CD.
Oh, nice. I'm gonna have to hit you up on that.
Which Philippians? 4:13?
It was more angel, so I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
So there was lots of twos and ones involved. Like Spirit told me to open up the Bible, and I'm like, I'm not opening up the Bible. I'm gonna go to Google instead, right? So it was faster. And I'm like, wow, One Spirit in Joy. So the I in the I. If anybody's a Bob Marley fan and they've seen the the I in the I. And when I was uncertain as to what the Rastafarian philosophy was about, I read Bob Marley's memoir, which is thick. That's thick.
Wait a minute. Wait, hold on a second. You've gone to depths that I was not expecting to hear about from you.
Hey, we can talk more. We can talk more of that later. I feel at some point we might have to pull her onto the Saturday panel discussions.
Exactly.
Everything you're talking right now is things that we get into on Saturdays. We get into esoteric knowledge. We get into these types
Oh,
of
cool.
conversations. Um,
Yeah.
so as of right
So,
now,
quick
we're
question.
doing a speak your truth, Mr.
Yeah.
Signal Uno, a speak your truth. We can talk about that later, okay? I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
edit this
Okay.
part out.
No problem. Quick
But
question. When you started going through your meditation, did it disrobe the people that you had encountered negatively? When I say disrobe, for me, I'll give you an example. When you're in the battle, all you see is the terror of the person. When you step back from it and you completely go into self and you begin to understand self more, you see the people and you see their pain instead of seeing this terror. Do you think that's something that happened for you?
Oh, meditation was definitely a gateway for me. Meditation allowed me to access the higher dimensions. So many people have heard of the fifth dimension. I was able to access 7, 8, 9, and higher. I've got some
we're talking
great
about light
teachers.
bodies.
Yeah, light bodies. I don't speak code. I asked spirit very clearly not to do that this time around, right? Like, please. So for me, it was either meditation or medication. And the medication that I enjoyed the most was the same that Marley enjoyed the most.
Hey, Ja Rastafari. Anyway, I heard something the other day where they were talking about the cravings of the body. There are a lot of people who end up reaching into these self medications like alcohol. They're craving the alcohol. They think they're craving the alcohol, but in all honesty, they're misreading what the body wants. The body wants to feel good. It's not saying that it wants the alcohol. It's not saying that it needs the coke. It's not saying that it just wants to feel good. You need to find out what it is that makes the body feel good. That does not deal with that. There's times where people feel that they're craving sex all the time. No, you just want to feel closeness. You want that intimacy, and the intimacy does not necessarily mean something sexual. Sometimes
Here's
it can be of going and standing and grounding, putting your feet into the earth. So I
there.
mean, I'm like with that. That's it's interesting, and I mean, there's many different ways to come about feeling these. I don't want to call them addictions, but feeling these pleasures that are outside of ourselves that do not deal with destroying our temple.
Well, they're trying to recreate dopamine. That's what that feeling of receiving dopamine. And
Hmm.
if you teach it to understand what it is, then they won't abuse it. But if they never taught to understand it, they abuse it because they need it. It's like it takes me away from all the junk, all the stuff that I'm dealing with, and it's a place that gets me away from everything for right now.
And that's
But
exactly
that's
what
what.
happens with me. Like I did
But
8 years in the Marine Corps, 2 tours Afghanistan. When I got out the Marine
that.
Corps, I was
Mhm.
heavy on alcohol. I was heavy on weed, and I was in
Mhm.
Washington State and California. Weed was legal out there. Once I started realizing, like, okay, I need to find something that is not this because I was spending a lot of money on that. Very
Mhm.
bad. And I mean, I would never drink to get drunk. And I didn't
Mhm.
like smoke to as just be like, yeah, all day. I would smoke to go to sleep because I couldn't really sleep on my own. Even with
Right.
like my wife right now, and then I'm gonna quote you, my first ex-wife, granted my only ex-wife, but still, there were times where with my ex-wife, I remember one day I woke up and I accidentally kicked her into the television. There was
Mhm.
another time where I woke up. I remember this dream. I had like a grim reaper looking thing. It was black and cloaked, and it had no face. And I woke up, and she was praying on the side of the bed, and I decked her dead in the face. Like just because I had that dream, I woke up and I thought it was that entity right there, and I decked her dead in the face. She freaked the fuck out, and I was like, I'm so sorry. And then there were even when I was like single after my divorce, I didn't have girls sleep over because of the fact that I've had situations to where yeah, I
PTSD.
would end up having night terrors or whatever, and
Mhm.
things wouldn't end up well. And then even with like my wife now, like there was a time where I ended up waking up and she's on the couch and I'm like, "What's wrong with you?" She was like, "Nah." I was like, "What?" She was like, "You was kicking and punching in your sleep." And this was years ago. I mean, the most recent episode was I guess I just elbowed her in the face and started laughing, and then I was talking in my sleep. I was just like, "Oh." I was like, "I'm sorry." She's like, "Yeah, what were you dreaming about?" I was like, "I don't know. I would like to know my damn self." That was why I used to smoke so that way I could sleep. Because for a long time, I used to stay up for 3-4 days and not fall asleep until my body literally shut down on me. That's how I told my vehicle in 2012. I fell asleep behind the wheel because I didn't sleep for 5 days.
And see, I wish this is what I wish that they would they would treat soldiers that come back from war zones more intently and make sure that their issues are taken care of. They just kind of cut you guys loose. And
I mean, at the same time, a lot of us
and think that the problem is over. The problem's not over. The only reason I know this is because my brother-in-law, my oldest sister's ex-husband, was prepared to shoot her in the face. He was asleep, half asleep. He had the gun under the pillow. He pulls it out, turns to her, and he's a Vietnam vet. Turns it to her, and she's screaming. She's up and runs from the bed. It finally clicked for him, and he up and he apologized so many times, but she had to leave. She said, "I have to leave." She said, "We got to get this under control." But for them back then, they didn't get any treatment. Later on down the road, they had to fight for what they deserved. And the whole, and I mean, come on. And for me, anyone that has experienced events or gone through anything, they need to open up and have a conversation, or they needed to be treated intensely, not with drugs, because drugs only mask the problem. Like we're talking about dopamine, it only masks the issue. That's all it does. You have to be in the mindset of like you were, the program that you created for yourself to get to where you needed to be and to understand it. And the experience during that time is horrible because you're still feeling the pain of the kicks and punches, but you're just rolling with it. You see what I'm saying? Once you got to a place where you're like, look, I'm free from all of this. I'm not going to accept the abuse anymore. Think about all the things that you went through before you got to that place and you begin to breathe easy. You see what I'm saying? That's the important thing. And I'm speaking from experience, literally from experience. I've gone through somewhat of the same thing. I've just accepted abuse. My previous relationship was the same exact thing. She knew that I was there to support and protect her and help her. She told me specifically to my face, someone did this to me. Now it's my turn to do it to someone else. So I'm going to do it to you. That was my walk. And that was after my fourth child was born. And I was like, why this whole time I'm thinking you're going through episodes in your mind. You can't help what you're doing. I'm accepting it. But she said, nope, I knew exactly what I was doing. Someone did it to me and I was turning it to you. And I'm like, wow. So I've been there. I understand that. I understand when you put all your love on the table and it's non-existent for them. I brought off to her. I said, look, I know right now you can't see me. You can't see who I am. You're still wading through the stuff that you're dealing with your family. So I'm going to back up. And I can't deal with this anymore because your mind is, for you to say that to me is wrong. I have not done anything to you. I wasn't there in the past when those things happened. All the damage and abuse that we suffer from people, we don't know if it's for something that's happened in the past for them or not. And we don't get a chance to ask because all of the things that they're doing, they're being nice. They have the mask on and, oh, they're being so sweet. And let me take you here. And, oh, let's do this and let's walk. And the whole time in the back of their mind, they're like, I'm going to cause you some damage that you won't forget. And
hurt people.
That's why I was asking that question, because after a while, the mask of pain was relief for me. And I realized these are people. They suffered something. My ex was beaten by her mom. Her mom was a prostitute. She had been molested by one of her mom's Johns. A whole bunch of stuff happened. You see what I'm saying? So if that's what happened to her, and no healing happened at all, period. No healing. She's not the person that knew where to go for healing, not even today. So if that's what happened, then I have to come to a point of understanding that, dang, she had a messed up life and she didn't know how to center herself. She didn't know how to. She turned to alcohol. She turned to things that just made her happy for the moment. She tried to level out another way. We talked about meditation. That wasn't a thing that she liked to do, but she was at a place to where she felt like now I can blame everyone that ever did something to me, and she plays back and forth between them instead of ending it and saying, "Hey, no, we're done." So it's, can I blame her for being upset at her mom? Sometimes I do. And I
Some
had a
don't want
full
you to talk.
conversation. I said eventually I'd like an apology, but I'm not. I'm not expected anytime soon. But at the end of the day, should I hold it over her head? No, I refuse to hold it over her head, because that's one of the things she'd have to fight. So coming to this place took a lot. The woman that I'm with now, oh my gosh, she is leagues beyond what I've ever dealt with.
You gotta make her blush.
Very soft hands, and very soft and very understanding. But I don't cross the line with her because I know who she is. I would never be that abusive person because I know who she is. I know where she comes from, and know what her expectations are. So I applaud you for telling your story on this. I really do, and I applaud your deep dive. Go ahead.
One question. So, in all your years of possibly working with veterans, obviously working in psychology, understanding the various methods and methodologies, have you ever heard of flower essences? So,
No,
Bach flower essences? Okay, so Bach flower essences. So 37 flower essences that resonate with different personality and character types that are completely supportive. They contraindicate with nothing. They've been around since 1920. Yet they are not spoken about. I speak about them because I help people with them. Yet the mainstream offers the dope to cover for the dopamine instead of working with the main problem, which is a soul.
Right. There you go. There you go. I agree.
Getting juicy now. That's called flower essences?
Flower essences. They resonate with, Bach. B-A-C-H. In the United Kingdom, they pronounce it Bosch, which is really confusing for spelling. So Bach, B-A-C-H. So for example, so for example, pine flower essence helps with guilt. Pine, like a tree. But it's the essence, the soul vibration of the tree. Pine specifically. Because oak is different, as is elm.
Would that also kind of be like if you went out and hugged that type of tree? Because I know you said vibration, so I'm just curious.
The essence is like a concentrate. So going back to the 420 conversation, no, it does not smell. So going back to the 420 conversation, if you were to roll marijuana as opposed to take a concentrate, the flower essence would be more like a concentrate.
Oh, so like my teas.
Powerful. Yeah.
Okay, because I do teas. I grind up teas and make teas. I do some that have like blue lotus. I have some that end up having some weed in it. I do some that have lion's mane, other type of mushrooms, and other type of herbs as well. So is that similar to what you're talking about with the flower essence?
No, you'd have to take a truckload.
Hey, I'm trying to understand. This is new to me, so I'm trying to.
It's the vibration. It's the vibration of it.
Right.
So it's more like scalar wave energies. So scalar wave energies donate photons to the body.
Nancy, you gave me something to look up. Like, thank you for being on. You shared your story and you were educating me. I appreciate that. I have two more questions for you. And then I'm going to end up wrapping it up. So the first question is going to be, if you could change anything from your past, what would you change? And how would it change who you are today?
Nothing. I would change nothing. That's the butterfly effect, just like the movie. I would change nothing. Going back to kindergarten just for one day would be fun, though. Just for one. I'd be so sassy.
Oh my goodness! How would that change you though? If you went back to kindergarten and you were sassy, like that wouldn't change who you are. No?
No. I do it all the time when I deal with my granddaughters. I have 3.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And with it, this will be my last question. But first, let me ask Mr. Sigma Uno, do you have any questions for her?
I think the only question I have is how long did you think it took for you to get to where you are now, to be very centered?
The last 3 years were the years that I became more able to speak my truth. Honestly, within the last 6 months, I have had the one coach in America that I worked with. So shout out to Christopher Rausch, the accountability coach. That was my game changer.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
what's up. So what is there anything that you would like to say to any listeners, anybody who has possibly gone through abuse, is going through abuse, has lost a child, is in the process of trying to self-heal, self-learn, and is trying to get closer to who their true self?
You are a gift to this world. You have so much to offer to this world. You matter, and we need you. We need you. We need you to level up and become a better version of yourself for you and everybody who loves you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, with that, this was another beautiful episode of Divine Time with your boy, your host, Danli Divine. And I had with me another beautiful soul share their story. I mean, we all are going through things in life, and with that, it's hard to go through it alone. But sometimes the best thing that we can do is really look within, figure out what we are doing, take accountability of our actions, and grow from there. Once we are able to look at ourselves and realize, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore, and we move on. We put up these boundaries to allow ourselves to grow in a positive way, to block the negativity away from us, and to focus on the positivity and what we can do to bring that positive via the experience that we have gone through. We all have a voice, and your voice can possibly save a life. With that, I just want to say this is another episode